is all the above, best believe we do it better. I want the fame, the fortune, all the above. I want the checks, the moolah, all the above. From Philadelphia to New York, all the above. Man, tell them other stations they don't do it like us. I want the fame, the fortune, all the above. I want the checks, the moolah, all the above. From Philadelphia to New York, all the above. Man, tell them other stations they don't do it like us. What up?
What's up, guys? It's your girl Angel Marie, and I'm sitting here with my co-host Kevin. And this week we have a super duper fun segment for you guys because we are going to play a game of this or that, but Black Sitcom edition. So hopefully you guys get ready. We're going to have a little bit of 90s Black sitcoms, early 2000 Black sitcoms, and a little splash of current Black sitcoms. So let's get the show going. Alright, so first up we have Family Matters or A Different World. Now both of these Black sitcoms are 90s sitcoms, so I feel like they are a good pairing. One is about a family show and the other is more geared towards college students and what they went through growing up in a university. And it's also a historically Black university, so I feel like I should throw that in there. So, I'll let you go first.
This is probably one of the tougher ones on the list for me. Some of these I have a clear-cut answer on. I flip-flopped on this because The Different World obviously is a spin-off of Cosby. The Cosby Show had that Cosby touch. Dwayne Wayne, Whitley, great characters. And I believe it's supposed to be based off of Hampton University. It's a school in Virginia. Even the campus looks similar. And actually, I only went for a year. I had to transfer, but I actually went to Hampton, and part of it was because of that show.
Ah, fun fact.
But I have to go Family Matters because I'd say it's probably the most, after the Cosby Show, it's probably the most popular Black show ever. And it crossed racial lines. It was one of those shows where everybody watched it. It was a show that happened to be a Black family as opposed to a show about a Black family. And it had one of the most iconic characters in the history of all of television, Steve Urkel. I didn't even call the show Family Matters. I was like, I'm watching Urkel. Everybody called it Urkel. So I have to lean towards Family Matters. How about you?
I agree. I 100% chose Family Matters. Obviously, I love A Different World too, so that's kind of hard. But with Family Matters, I want to say they covered so many different topics. Granted, A Different World actually did too. But I feel like having that family dynamic where you have situations that involve children that they teach life lessons, issues with parents where it can help teach life lessons, racial issues where it teach life lessons. So I just, and it was hilarious. Granted, Different World had Whitley, who I thought was super hilarious, but she ain't an Urkel level hilarious, so they went by default.
Yeah, and one thing about Family Matters too is because we had the Cosby Show and he was a doctor, she was a lawyer, and it's about excellence. It was beautiful. There's a lot of Black families that are like that, successful, and a good example of something for families to strive for. But Family Matters was probably more typical of the average Black family, or most families, a middle class family. Carl Winslow was a cop. Harriet, I think, worked at a department store for a while, and the other time she, didn't work. She was homemaker. So it was just a regular story. And with the Cosby Show, I love the show. It was hilarious, but I couldn't relate to going to Princeton and all those.
Like, it's so cookie cutter.
I could relate more to Family Matters and just their everyday life. So Family Matters, definitely.
Boom. Number 2, we have Sister Sister or One-on-One.
Oh, that's easy for me. First of all, I already know your answer, but mine is Sister Sister, and I know, I'm sure you agree with me.
Yes, I'm gonna pick Sister Sister. I love me some Tia and Tamara, more so Tia, but I feel like Sister Sister, almost just like my reasoning for Family Matters, it just gave that natural family vibe, and it was a spin on a traditional family, obviously, because they were adopted twins. One grew up with their adoptive dad, one grew up with the adoptive mom, and both of them are polar opposites. Lisa Landry grew up in the project, in the hood. Ray grew up in a more suburban area as a limo business owner, which I love because, Black-owned business. One-on-One, I loved it too. Obviously, I love Kyla Pratt. I feel like she is such a staple in 90s history. in early 2000s, because I feel like there was not one movie or TV show that Kyla Pratt was not involved in. And Flex Alexander, he was like super dope and funny too in that TV show. So I like them both, but if I had to choose, Sister Sister is definitely more iconic.
Isn't that your favorite show?
Sister Sister?
Yeah. I feel like you told me that was your favorite show before.
Oh, I love Sister Sister. It's between that and Family Matters.
I didn't know Family Matters is that high up for you.
Oh yes, I watch Family Matters every day on TV One.
My wife, your sister, that is her favorite show of all time.
That's why I love her. Number 3, we have The Cosby Show or Everybody Hates Chris.
That's so easy. I can't imagine there's anybody on planet Earth who would choose Everybody Hates Chris over The Cosby Show. Cosby Show, I kind of touched on a little bit, but it's one of the greatest shows ever on TV. Forget just sitcom. Transcended race, demographics, all of that stuff. It was at a time where you never saw black families represented that way. And, I know a lot of people have feelings about Bill Cosby, and I'm just talking about what the show was and what it represented. Bill Cosby became America's dad, and it wasn't America's black dad. People looked at him, white, black, Latino, Asian, sat around the TV and was like, that is America's dad. Like, I wish my dad was like that. So, gotta go Cosby Show. But Everybody Hates Chris shows another family, working class family, and it was really funny. It was really funny, but it can't touch the Cosby Show.
I agree. I picked the Cosby Show. It's just so many lessons within their long span of show run that they had, and I feel like can't nobody touch Claire Huxtable on the TV mom level. Like, it's not even about Cliff Huxtable and Bill Cosby right now. I'm focusing on the legend Felicia Rashad.
Yeah.
Like, I loved her, especially when it came to the time of the scenes where the kids were about to get in trouble and she's about to discipline them with her words. Like, they never put their hands on their kids. They really got into their kids' brains just simply by talking to them. And Claire had her way with words. I mean, granted, she's a lawyer,
She made that face where she was like,
yeah, especially
she scared
that
me through the
episode.
TV.
Yeah, I know that one episode where Vanessa went to Baltimore.
To the concert?
Yeah, that one episode stick in my head where Claire had that talk with her. And she was like, because you wanted to have big fun. Like, you can't, there's so many scenes from the Cosby Show that you would know word for word. Granted, Everybody Hates Chris is amazing too, because I feel like Tashina Arnold and Felicia Rashad both are amazing actresses, I feel like, especially when it comes to them being a TV mom, because Tashina is hilarious. We talked about Terry Crews in our prior segments before, and I can't stand him now, but in Everybody Hates Chris, he was a good actor, he's a stickler. A lot of black dads or black parents in general are like that anyway. It's like, oh, that's 2 cents for every minute you watching that show, or when you have that clock plugged in or something, you ain't telling time when you sleep. So, I felt like with Everybody Hates Chris, it's almost like how you mentioned Family Matters, because those are real life situations, especially for a lot of us growing up in urban, rural areas in the community, because they showed the struggle where Julius had to work 2 jobs, and Chris had to, Rochelle had to be on food stamps just to save money, and it's just little things like that. It was more real. But at the end of the day, Cosby Show.
Definitely.
Number 4, we have Girlfriends or Living Single.
This is a tough one, but I gotta go Living Single. I feel like Living Single is probably more representative of most, I guess, friendships among black women, where you've got the different type. Girlfriends, it was more of a sophisticated, high class. I mean, they could get a little ratchet here and there, but I feel like you got your group of friends.
Yeah.
There's probably more groups of friends who are women who can say, oh yeah, you're the Regine, you're the Sinclair, you're the Max, as opposed to, oh, you're the Joan, you're the, I'm forgetting some of the names.
Tony.
You know what I mean? And I also think because in the 90s where, you had Friends and there were so few black shows that were really popular. I mean, it was Martin, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because we were kind of getting past the Cosby Show's run. Living Single was just a great representative of young black people making their way in the world, doing positive things. So I feel like from a quality, they're very close, but I think from a social impact and importance, I gotta give Living Single the edge.
I agree. I choose Living Single. Actually, surprisingly enough, I wasn't a huge fan of Girlfriends growing up. I
Really?
never really, I honestly can't really recall watching too many episodes of Girlfriends. I know my sister loved that show. She always watched it, but I always found myself watching Living Single. Granted, I feel like a good portion of why I watched Living Single is because I loved Regine, mainly because I was obsessed with Facts of Life growing up, so I loved her as Tootie. And I feel like nobody could touch Maxine Shaw. Like, she was clap back queen on the show, especially with her and just
Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle. I was about to say Kim, but I was like, that's not his name. Number 5, we have Martin or The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
This one is probably the toughest one on the list for me, but when I think about it, because The Fresh Prince, all-time great show. When I think of the 90s, The Fresh Prince is probably one of the shows that captures that era as well as any show. Everybody loves Will Smith. Great cast, but I think I have to lean towards Martin. And the reason why is, while The Fresh Prince was a great show, Martin had moments that would have me laughing till I couldn't breathe, my stomach hurt, I was in tears. The episode that I always think back to is the episode where Brother Man, or he thought Brother Man, somebody stole it. Actually, he did take it, he borrowed it, but Martin thought somebody stole his CD player and he called everybody in. He had the dog and he was like, and you could see the entire cast lost it. They couldn't hold it. They were putting their heads down. You saw them laughing. They broke character. And there are just a number of episodes like that I can't think of any time I've laughed harder watching TV than when I watch Martin. So I gotta lean towards Martin. As great as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was, and again, everybody loved Will Smith. It was an important show for the time because there wasn't a whole lot of representation of black families after the Cosby show. You still had Family Matters at the time, but Martin had me laughing like no show ever.
I agree, and I feel like with both of these shows being against each other, this is almost a debate that has been going on for years now, especially on social media, where everyone's like, Martin or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? And I felt like I have to choose Martin as well. I love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I feel like almost how we said with Family Matters, how Steve Urkel stood out so much that you call it the Urkel Show. I feel like with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the entire cast was so strong where you didn't just pinpoint Will as the lead character. Granted, everyone knows that Will Smith was the lead, but Carlton was hilarious. Hillary was hilarious. Aunt Viv, black aunt, dark skinned Aunt Viv. Uncle Phil, rest in peace, James Avery, and even Ashley, and Jeffrey, comeback king. I feel like everyone had their own staple moments in the show. Same thing with Martin, and I don't know if I said this already, but I choose Martin as the best. Because I just felt like it was nonstop laughter, like you said. And what I love the most is that all the characters that he embodied, like Shanae, Otis, Jerome, Roscoe, the list go, even his own mama. It's just so much within that show. Yeah, it's just so much within the show that you just couldn't help but laugh at. And I think my favorite part of the Martin show was when they all went on the tropical island, and then Martin and Gina ran into Pam and Tommy, and then the little rat John came in, and Martin and Pam is just trying to fight it off. I just think it's so many episodes I can count off, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about Martin too is you touched on it, the cast. They all had their moments. Martin was the main feature. He was, the comedian of the bunch, but they were all funny. They all held their own when they were in scenes with Martin and going back and forth with him. So I gotta give it to Martin. And also, one thing about Martin, there were shows like Fresh Prince, because you had family shows. There wasn't a show like Martin at that time. It had a more urban, more hip hop kind of vibe to it. He had Snoop on there, he's had Biggie on there. So it was a mainstream show that was introducing a lot of black culture to a wider audience.
And number 6, we have the Wayans brothers or the Jamie Foxx show.
I'm gonna go Wayans brothers, and I've said this to Tisha all the time. The thing about the Wayans brothers, in all of their shows and all their movies, the jokes are either terrible or hilarious. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. Either the joke lands and it's really funny, or I'm like, man, that was kind of corny. Jamie Foxx was a good show, but I didn't find it hilarious. And of course, the Wayans brothers, rest in peace, John Witherspoon, had Pops, who's one of the great characters of all time. John Witherspoon is hilarious in everything he plays. I got to give the nod to the Wayans brothers because even though the laughs aren't frequent all the way through, I laugh more and harder at the Wayans brothers than I did with Jamie Foxx. And anything with John Witherspoon is going to be great. Any scene he was in was hilarious. So I got to go Wayans brothers.
I agree. I vote Wayans brothers, and it's interesting for them both shows to be paired with each other because obviously both Marlon and Sean and Jamie Foxx all came from In Living Color, and then that's when they ended up having their own TV shows right after. So I feel like I chose Wayans brothers because I love Marlon Wayans. I think he's hilarious, especially Pops. I've never been a big fan of Sean. I don't think he's funny at all. I just feel like he made it along because of his brothers. He's a good actor, but I don't really think he's a comedian. And I never found him funny at all. But Jamie Foxx show, I like the Jamie Foxx show, but I felt like I never was like, if I had a choice of a whole bunch of shows and I'm scrolling through the TV guide, I would never immediately like, oh, Jamie Foxx show's on, let me turn that on. So yeah, that's why I choose Wayans brothers.
I agree. Have there been any we disagreed on so far?
I don't think so.
All right. We're almost halfway through, so we'll see.
And number 7, we have the Parkers or Moishe.
This one's an easy one for me. It's Moishe, and the reason why is I can't think of any others. Maybe you can, but it's probably the only coming of age show that's surrounding the life of a teenage black girl. So I know a lot of young sisters growing up looked at Moishe and really felt the show because she was experiencing a lot of things that young black girls do growing up. When it comes to boyfriends and friends and all the things, the pressures of school, she was really smart. So she had to balance that, but also, the environment that she was in, the people she hung around with, had a boyfriend played by Fredro Starr who, was a thug, but, the parents weren't fond of him. And even though she was a good girl, she was attracted to the bad boy. So a lot of things that young girls in general, but, young black girls experience growing up, I think were represented in that show. And there aren't too many shows, I can't really think of any that are like that are coming of age sitcoms or dramas that are, centered around the life of a teenage black girl.
Well, again, I agree with you. I vote Moishe. This one was kind of hard for me though because I love the Parkers a lot too, and I feel like the Parkers is a hilarious show because I love Monique on that show, and I feel like Countess Vaughn held her own in that show, and I felt like she was probably the funniest one of that. But honestly, it was a spin-off off Moesha, so a good portion of all the characters on the Parkers were already in Moesha, so I felt like me voting for Moesha, I still have the best of all worlds. And like you said, it was a teenage girl. She's always writing in her diary, letting you know her thoughts, telling you how she feels, all the little teenage scenarios. I was growing up like, oh, once I'm in high school, I'm gonna be doing this like Moesha and all her friends, Hakeem, It was a good vibe. I felt like it was good 90s nostalgia having that. And Brandy owned the 90s, let's be honest.
She really did.
So,
she really did. People forget that.
Yeah.
She was America's sweetheart for a minute.
And I remember I always wondered, I'm like, dang, that girl be having them fresh braids in literally every single episode for the last 10 years. How? And I'd be like, that's so time consuming to take those in and out, but she did it.
Yeah.
Number 8, we have Smart Guy or Kenan and Kel.
I think this is probably the first time we're going to disagree. I'm not really a fan of either of these shows, but I'm going to lean.
This was a little after your time.
I was when Smart Guy was out. I think
you
I was
were
in
like
late high school,
college,
early
right?
college.
Yeah.
I did watch it. Part of the reason I watched the Smart Guy though is because when I was in college, my freshman year, we didn't have cable, and it was like one of the few channels that we could get the rap in, so I'm taking it back a little bit. But I'm gonna go Smart Guy for one reason, and you can ask your sister this. I had a thing for Essence Atkins.
I knew you were gonna say
back in the day. That's it. That is the only reason why.
This one is honestly hard for me. I love both shows so much, but we are going to disagree. I'm going to vote for Kenan and Kel.
I knew you were.
Because Kel is hilarious.
You really think he's funny?
I love Kel.
I don't think he's ever made me laugh.
I love Kel. I feel like it's stupid comedy though. It's not like a Martin kind of hilarious or Pam. I felt like it was a stupid hilarious. But I was young at that age, and Honestly, I ain't even gonna say young because I still watch Kenan and Kel because you know the Nick at Night or Nicktoons or something after midnight they show all the 90s Nickelodeon. I still be watching that. Hey, I ain't got no shame in my game. But I love it. I love Smart Guy too though. But if I had to choose, I'm gonna say Kenan and Kel solely for Kel because I felt like Kenan's funny, but I felt like everyone watched that show for Kel. And it's almost the same where I would say with Brandy. Kel kind of owned the 90s, early 2000s era on Nickelodeon. So yeah. Number 9, we have The Steve Harvey Show or Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
This is another very, very easy one for me. I'm going Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey was good on this show. Cedric the Entertainer was hilarious. The actual kids cast that they had, I forget his name, Santana something or whatever.
Joel Santana? Not Joel Santana. My bad. But Romeo.
Yeah, Romeo and the kid who played Bullet. That show was funny. The principal and her relationship with Steve was interesting, and also Cedric and his girl, I forget her name, Lolita or whatever. Hanging with Mr. Cooper was boring. It was just boring. Holly Robinson Peete, I thought she was gorgeous on the show. I mean, she's still beautiful now, so I watched for her. The lady who, and she played Jaleesa on A Different World. I forget her name.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
But she was on there as well. But Hanging with Mr. Cooper, it was okay. I've never really found Mark Curry that funny. Just not my brand of comedy. It was kind of like, eh. So that show to me was just boring.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this was a good pairing though because obviously Steve Harvey was a
good pairing. Yeah.
Like musician, and then he became a music teacher, and then obviously Mr. Cooper was a basketball player who came and was a basketball teacher. So I feel like it was a good pairing. But like Kevin, I go for a Steve Harvey Show. I can remember more times of me watching Steve Harvey Show more than me watching Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I just remember I like Hanging with Mr. Cooper because when they had Raven-Symoné on there and all that, and I was like, oh, Raven-Symoné. But I like Steve Harvey Show. It's hilarious. I still watch it today when it pop up on TV every now and then. But yeah. Number 10, Good Times or 227.
I might make a lot of people mad here. I've said this for years. 227 is the most overrated black show in the history of television. That's another show that's just boring. I love,
Jack A. Harry?
Well, of course, that was a great character.
The one who played the...
No, it was just the mom.
Melvin Moore? No, not me.
Oh, it's killing me.
The one from the Jeffersons.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Marla Gibbs.
Marla Gibbs. I didn't start with an M.
She's great. She was great on the Jeffersons. She was a great mom on that show. And of course, Regina King, who is one of our great actresses. She's had such a long career, great body of work. She's brilliant in everything she does. So no knock to any of the actors or actresses in it. The show just was like, eh. I know it was supposed to be about just a building in DC and the neighborhood and the, the relationships between the neighbors and stuff like that. That kind of centered around one family, but the show was just boring. I would watch it because there was nothing else on at that time, but it's the most overrated black show. What's your favorite 227 moment? I think Run DMC was on there one time.
I was gonna say I don't really have a favorite moment. I just liked any scene that Jack A. Harry was in because I felt like she kind of made the show. I feel like she's hilarious. I honestly like all the scenes with her.
But she wasn't Urkel. She wasn't enough to carry the show.
Yeah.
It was just like,
she was the pretty face of the show who had a funny, like, squeaky voice.
So, yeah, go ahead. Y'all can get at us in the comments or get at me in the comments if you feel that way, if you disagree. But 227 was just the most boring and overrated black show ever. But what did you choose?
I choose Good Times.
Of course, that's what I choose.
Yeah, I love Good Times. Obviously, I feel like that's the most pure and raw of an example of black family, especially in that time where you're in the hood, you're in the projects, but you're trying to still give your family morals, try to get them out of it in a way, and it shows the struggle and it shows the realness of the black community almost, because it's a lot of people who grew up in the projects, some people are still in the project. So although we would love to have like the Cosbys and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Airs, we have the Judges and stuff, but sometimes you have to have a sitcom where it shows the truth sometimes of what the black community is like. So I love it.
It wasn't without criticism though. While most of us love Good Times, there was some criticism about, and I believe that's one of the reasons that there was a sort of a split between John Amos and the show, because he didn't like the direction the show was going and the portrayal of JJ Jimmy Walker, because he was very, at times, there was some element of coonery to it, and how he acted. And I mean, I even saw a picture of him. They slowed down a segment of him walking through the living room, and then they showed the character of the cartoon of Jim Crow, the actual Jim Crow cartoon, and they looked eerily similar.
Yeah. So
a lot of people had issues with JJ's character and how he acted, and again, they felt there was some elements of coonery involved. So it wasn't without its criticism, but I'm still going to overall go with good times, and I think overall the show was more positive for our community than negative.
I agree. Number 11, we have The Bernie Mac Show or My Wife and Kids.
I think we're probably going to disagree on this one as well. Okay. I'm going My Wife and Kids. That, just how I said 227 is the most overrated black show of all time, I think My Wife and Kids just may be the most underrated black show of all time. Damon Wayans is hilarious. He's always funny. Tisha Campbell, she picked up right where she left off at Martin. She can hold her own with some of the best comedic actors in the business. But the Junior character, he was really funny on that show. He was hilarious. And again, that show snuck up on me. I didn't even know it was out.
I don't feel like Franklin and Katie held their own. I didn't like when they switched to Claire. I granted, even the beginning, the first.
They both were funny though.
Yeah, but I just felt like even when you base it off the whole cast, I felt like I could have done without Claire.
I think she had some.
I think Franklin and Junior made most of the show when it comes to the younger castmates.
I agree. But overall, I just found the show, it was nothing crazy where I was falling out laughing, but it kept me laughing throughout the whole episode. And again, it was another, without being too serious or heavy, it was just a good portrayal of, a black family. But I gotta go My Wife and Kids. How about you?
Surprisingly enough, I'm agreeing with you. I'm actually.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go Bernie Mac.
No, I love My Wife and Kids. I actually still to this day watch My Wife and Kids every single day. I love it. And I think my favorite episode is when Cat Williams and Damon Wayans had their little dance battle. I think that's probably my favorite episode. But there's so many good episodes that come with My Wife and Kids where I agree, I really feel like it's underrated because whenever people talk about black families, it's always either the Cosbys or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, and even sometimes I even feel like the Winslows aren't even mentioned that much. But I feel like even though this is a more modern TV show of a black sitcom because it came out like mid 2000s, so it's not like a 90s. I feel like a lot of 90s sitcoms get noticed more, but I feel like Damon Wayans should get his flowers for My Wife and Kids. It was hilarious, and it was a good show. Yeah, it was such a chill show. I felt like it spoke to the modern black family today because it's like they weren't poor, they weren't wealthy, but they were a good middle class family where they fit right in the middle, and they addressed real issues. But it wasn't as hard hitting where it was like, all right, this is too much. They like touched on it enough where it was like they get the point across.
Exactly.
Number 12, we have Blackish or the Hughleys.
That's easy. I gotta go Blackish.
I'm shocked.
Nah, the Hughleys was another one of those shows that was like, I watched it, but D.L. Hughley, no knock on him. Again, just his brand of comedy, he doesn't make me laugh very often. And I'm not saying he's not funny or he's a bad comedian or anything. Just for me, I don't find myself laughing at most of his jokes. So, Blackish is hilarious. I think for modern times, they've done a great job of keeping the show funny while still having very heavy topics and addressing it. You got Lawrence Fishburne. You got, and I forget her name, but she plays everybody's aunt. Jennifer Lewis. She plays everybody's mom, everybody's auntie. They're great as the grandparents. Tracy Ellis Ross is very funny. I don't think maybe she does.
I think she's hilarious.
She doesn't get enough credit for how funny she was. Really good in Girlfriends.
She's Diana Ross' daughter. I think that's why people aren't giving her enough credit. But I feel like she's separated herself from that so well.
She's done what like Janet Jackson did from, people say Janet Jackson, the first thing you think of is not Michael Jackson. She's gotten out of his shadow.
Janet Jackson.
And when people say Tracy Ellis Ross, 15 years ago, I would always think Diana Ross's daughter. Now, I don't think of Diana Ross. The first thing I think of is her body of work. I think of Girlfriends. I think of Blackish. So
it's so funny because Tracy Ellis Ross went live on Instagram recently because it's a new movie that's coming out with her and Ice Cube where she's supposed to be a singer. and she was telling everyone how she's always been so afraid to come out with any type of music, obviously being Diana Ross' daughter.
Yeah,
and I feel like she did really well stepping into the actor scene, because I feel like if she tried to become a celebrity solely based off of music, everyone would have compared her to Diana Ross. So she went on Instagram Live and did a sampling of one of the songs from the soundtrack of the movie, and Diana Ross had commented under and was like, "I'm so proud of you, sweet," like a typical mom thing. And then Tracy Ellis was like, "Oh my God, thank you, Mom, I love you." And it dawned on me, I was like, oh yeah, Diana Ross is her mom. Because at first I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. I'm like, oh wait, but that real life is her mom. But I also vote for Blackish simply because Anthony Anderson, Tracy Ellis Ross, Jennifer Lewis, and Lawrence Fishburne, like you said.
Kids are
also, Marseille, yeah, I'm gonna say Marseille Martin. All the kids are hilarious, but I feel like Marseille Martin also is helping to lift that show as a younger actress.
And she's gonna take over the world.
Yeah,
she's like
she's making moves, and I feel like you said, Blackish covers so many topics that a lot of people haven't talked about. Even when Juneteenth had passed, everyone gave Blackish their flowers, because they were like, what, 2-3 years ago now, I think Blackish had the episode of Juneteenth, and that's pretty much where Juneteenth was really popularized on TV, because they mentioned it. Nobody was really talking about Juneteenth before Blackish had an episode on it, and there's countless of other episodes that they talk about, but yeah, they deserve their flowers too. 13, the Jeffersons, or Sanford and Son. I'm very curious to know why he just put his head down. So what's in your head right now?
For the first time, I don't know if I can choose.
Really?
These are probably two of the most funny and significant shows on TV, period.
Really?
Not black, white, or other, period. I mean, the Jeffersons was a spinoff of All in the Family, the Archie Bunker show. And it was important because it's probably the first time we saw a wealthy black family on TV. Sherman Hemsley as George Jefferson is hilarious, one of the best characters ever. His wife Wheezy, that's where Marla Gibbs. George Jefferson and Marla Gibbs were the first Pam and Martin.
Oh,
the way they just went back at each other. So that was a great show. Sanford and Son, after Martin, Sanford and Son, even to this day, probably makes me laugh harder than any other show that I've ever seen. I don't. Can you give me a minute? And you go ahead and choose yours, because I need a minute.
Well, mine is easy. I feel like this is going to upset you then, because I've never been a big fan of Sanford and Son, so I'm going to vote the Jeffersons. Granted, I never liked Sanford. Like, my mom loved Sanford and Son. I feel like as soon as that little theme song came on, I immediately wanted to turn the channel, because I was like, oh, here comes Sanford and Son. I thought it was horrible. But I never really gave it a chance. I don't think I ever fully sat through an episode. I was just like, all right, it's this old man and his young old son. Granted, when I was watching Sanford and Son with my mom, I was like 8 or 9 or something. But granted, I still loved the Jeffersons. I loved all the old shows, so I don't even want to use that as an excuse. I just never latched on to Sanford and Son. But the Jeffersons was hilarious. So yeah.
I should have to take something back. I said George Jefferson and Florence, or Marla Gibbs and Sherman Hemsley were the first Pam and Martin. I don't know if Sanford and Son came out before the Jeffersons, but Fred Sanford and Aunt Esther, you gotta watch it. That might be the first Pam and Martin. Okay. I think I gotta lean towards Sanford and Son. If you put the Jeffersons on right now, I'd watch a couple episodes, and then when it's time for me to go, I'd walk out the door. If Sanford and Son was on, I wouldn't be able to leave. Like, if there was a marathon, I'd be spending the night.
Interesting. I think this is our first or second disagreement so far out of this list.
Yeah, it's really close, but I think I gotta go Sanford and Son. Red Fox might be the funniest, as far as him on TV and his show. I think he might be the funniest person ever to have a sitcom. He was that funny.
Fair enough. And last but not least, we are bringing this more into modern times of current television. So we have Insecure or Grownish.
Very, very easy for me. Insecure. Grownish, I guess it's for adults, but I guess maybe more geared towards college age kids.
Yeah.
Insecure, I believe I'm older than Issa Rae. Do you know how she is?
I want to say Issa Rae is probably like 35.
Okay, so she's probably, I got her by a couple years. But I feel like I can relate more to that show a little bit. You know, you've got couples in there that are married and starting families and all that stuff. So I relate more to the show. I think it's brilliantly written. Issa Rae's a genius. And it's the way it's shot too.
Oh, I was going to talk about that.
The cinematography, the lighting, and the way that show is shot is some of the greatest filming I've seen. Just how the presentation of the show, the topics they cover. I think I relate to the show more, and it's very funny, and it's different because the whole thing is you have this, you know, awkward black girl, black woman. You typically don't see that type of character portrayed on TV or not featured and highlighted. So I just have a lot more in common with that show in terms of the content and the lives of the people on it. And it's just so well written and beautifully filmed and shot that Grownish is, you know, a good show, but I think it's for a different demographic.
I agree. Actually, I love both shows, obviously, but I'm going to pick Insecure. I could watch Insecure all day. I hate that it's only 30 minutes long, and then once the season's over, Issa makes us wait almost 2 to 3 years until she brings out a new season. But
she's busy.
Yeah, she's making busy,
movies.
so I can't be mad at her. So, and that's the thing, pretty much just like you said, the lighting, the cinematography, the camera angles that they use, even their transitions with their soundtrack is so spot on. I feel like you have to actually know the songs or watch it twice to actually catch why they put that song in their scene changes. I love that. I feel like also Kelly needs to make more appearances in the show as an actress, because I feel like her best friend Kelly is so hilarious in her few little cameos on the show that I love it. But she's actually a writer for the show, so I'm like, maybe she wants to spend more time writing the episodes and actually being in it. Who knows? And then with Grownish, obviously that's a spin-off from Blackish, where they try to copy like the Cosby show kind of scenario, where Denise went off to college and did a different world. So now their daughter Zoe went off to college and now she's on Grownish. I love the cast for that show. Obviously it's not technically for kids because they're in college, so they have adult like scenarios and topics, so that's why I don't mind getting into it. But sometimes it does annoy me because I feel like their daughter Zoe is always a little bit annoying sometimes because she wants the world to revolve around her. All the problems are sometimes a little bit too juvenile, where I'm like, all right, this is becoming too much. It's overwhelming. Insecure, granted Issa Rae can be overwhelming too with her character, her and Molly, but it's a little bit more adult where I'm like, all right, cool, I can do this. And we all have little situations like Insecure where the relationship issues, the friendship issues, like you said, someone's married, having a baby, so that kind of breaks off the friend group as well. So yeah. I
think we agreed on almost all of these except what, 2?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3.
So this was actually fun.
I actually did enjoy this.
And shout out or kudos to Angel Marie because she was the one who picked all the shows and paired them up. So these were actually really good pairings. You made it tough. There was only 1 or 2 that was really easy for me.
I purposely tried to match the shows together that almost resemble each other, where you had to think about which one you would choose. So yeah.
I agree.
Well, there you have it, guys. That is the end of our This or That segment, Black Sitcom Edition. Hopefully you guys loved it. We had a lot of transitions between 90s black sitcoms, early 2000s sitcoms, current sitcoms. We even threw some sitcoms in there from like the 70s, 80s-ish. So we pretty much got the best of both worlds all the way around because we're all of the above. So we provide all of the above. But if you guys like what you saw, definitely let us know by giving us a thumbs up and liking our video below. And if there's any shows that were your favorite, if there's any shows that you agreed with us, if you disagree, you're like, no, I like this show better, definitely let us know in the comment section below because we would love to hear your thoughts. If there's a show that we didn't mention that's a black sitcom that you guys would like to throw in there, feel free. You know, there's plenty of black sitcoms out there, but we didn't want to run over time and give you guys too much. And last but not least, if you guys like what you saw and you would love to see more, definitely push that subscribe button, and that is how you stay up to date with everything that is going on with all the above and receive new video alerts. That was a good episode.
Very good. We're gonna definitely have to keep this theme going. We'll have obviously different choices next time. It won't be sitcoms. It might be something completely different. But I like it. Makes me think a little bit, and it took me back. So this definitely was a fun one.
And
we've had some heavy ones lately, so it was nice to kind of lighten the mood. And there's a lot of serious things going on, but it was nice to lighten the mood and just kind of have fun chopping it up about old shows.
And you get to know a little bit more about us based off of which show we like the most. Who knows? But that's the end of it, and we ran out of time. So, as always, I'm your girl, Angel Marie, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Kevin.
See you guys next time.
See you guys next time.
Wednesdays at 7, Angel Marie and Kevin playing the illest records, bringing us back together. Philly is all season, swimming through any weather, leaving the track bleeding. Way we pull it together, we applying my pressure.